Today's adventure takes us to Wellsville, New York, where we're going to talk about and visit the iconic Pink House. Let's get started. So, the Pink House is a location that I've actually went past a couple times. Now, I'm not sure where we were going, that we went down State Street here and actually passed the Pink House. But that's how I remember it. And then in my later years here, I've tried to study on it and get some of its folklore and some of the facts that go with the folklore about the Pink House. So it's a place I've always wanted to visit in this capacity. Now, it was built in 1866 through 1869 by local druggist Edward Bradford Hall. And it's currently has passed down to the Wellsville family. Now, it's had various incantations in its life. It's been a place for meetings, funerals, weddings, and the such. Now, the buildings on the property include the main house, the carriage house, the fossil house, and an ice house. Now, sadly, this is probably about as close as I'm going to be able to get to the Pink House. Because the Pink House is private property, and one of the things we're never going to do in this channel is violate that and run any risks of getting possibly arrested or encourage anyone else to break the law. Now, there are several myths that I can dispel here about the Pink House. Myth number one is that the paint to paint the Pink House came from Italy. Well, there is evidence to show that the pink actually used to paint this Pink House here was locally sourced. Another thing people like to think of is that it's actually some kind of museum. Well, as I mentioned before, the Pink House is actually private property and is not open for tours or as a museum. Now, though a lot of original pieces still exist in the Pink House. And I guarantee you, once the Pink House actually opens up, I would love to be able to go in there and tour it and then share with everybody what it looks like on the inside. Now, the biggest myth about the Pink House is that it hosts paranormal activity. Well, I've done some studying on this, and there is literally no evidence to support that the Pink House has paranormal activity. A lot of folks think by looking at it, it just certainly must be haunted. But one of the things my channel does is also dispel rumors and tells the truth. And as far as I know, I have not been able to come up with any stories about the paranormal included with the history of the Pink House. And a lot of people that actually have been in there, to include the Dawkins, the caretakers, and that, have not reported any paranormal activity. Now, it certainly does look the part, but sadly, looking the part does not mean haunted. A lot of people would love for it to be haunted because everyone loves a good ghost story. But the Pink House, as far as I know, is free of paranormal activity. Is it built like with sacred architecture? Yes, I would say it definitely is. It's definitely a magnificent looking residence. But again, it's private property, and there are caretakers here that do take care of it. So just keep that in mind when someone talks about paranormal activity. Just take that with a grain of salt. That being said, the Pink House is not without its tragedy that we will get to next. So the little garden in the front of the Pink House here is ground zero for the story of the tragedy that has taken place here. There was one death that took place here at the Pink House. Now, that garden right now at one point was a fountain, and that's where the story picks up. So, what tragedy did happen at the Pink House? Well, in 1907, Beatrice Louise Carpenter actually drowned in the fountain that I mentioned earlier. And to make this story even more tragic, her grandfather, who was suffering from Parkinson's disease, actually watched it unfold, but he was physically unable to intervene, which just makes this whole thing even more gut-wrenching. But now to get back to the fact that, as far as it goes, that hasn't led to any paranormal activity at the Pink House. It's just a very tragic incident that happened here and is part of the history of this beautiful location. Okay, well, I thought I might be able to get a good look at the back of the property, but it's completely surrounded by these hedges that you see here, which is fine because, again, it's a private residence, and the people who stay here and the caretakers and the people who visit this place here definitely deserve their privacy. Now, that being said, the next stop on our tour and the history of the Pink House, we're going to actually go to the cemetery where the family members are buried, and we're going to see their mausoleum, and we're going to visit the gravesite of little Beatrice. Okay, now I'm here at the Woodlawn Cemetery, and I have found the final resting place of the folks that are associated with the Pink House, the Halls, the Carpenters, and the Farnhams. And in here is also the final resting place of little Beatrice. So let's take a look around here and see what we can see. Let's see what we can see going up inside here. Looks like the Carpenters are to the right. It's probably not translating really well, but because of the glare, but the Farnhams are to the left. Probably, there's Edwin. Little Beatrice is likely in here. Let's go around this way. This is the E.J. Farnham plot. It's a massive plot, actually. Goes back there. It even extends out this way. Caleb here was from the War of 1812 veteran. Farnhams definitely have a massive section here. I'm thinking Mr. Hall has got to be in the mausoleum. There's like no way he's not. I couldn't see it because of the glare. Could check out back here a little. There's Mary, Angeline Farnham. And it kind of goes out a little bit. This is a panorama of the cemetery itself. It's a small cemetery. But this is definitely the mausoleum and the final resting places of all those that are associated with the Pink House. And before I go, I want to honor this fellow here, as we honor all of our veterans. Mr. Delaney here is a veteran, another veteran of the War of 1812. We know this by this marker, which states War of 1812. So when you're at places like this, it's always important to honor our veterans. And that being said, right over here, I'm not going to go to all of them, but how could I do that and not at least go to Grandma's garden here and honor these folks? Private out of World War II, Ernest R. Koza. Helen I. Gear-Koza. She was a Tech 5 in the U.S. Army during World War II. And Brady H. Gear, Pennsylvania. He was a cook. Battery E, 80th Field Artillery, World War I. Folks, may you rest in peace. Thank you for your service. I came across this fellow here on the way out. He was from Company K, the 26th Regiment, New York. Cavalry volunteers. This fellow here is a veteran of the American Civil War. This is so cool. Arthur Maddox. And I know I've turned this into an impromptu cemetery safari, but how could I just leave this one behind? This is the final resting place of General Rufus Scott, the 23rd New York Infantry, 130th New York Infantry, 1st New York Dragoons, 1861 to 1865. How cool is this? I literally found a Civil War general on a impromptu cemetery safari. This is just cool. Who knew? And speaking of such, what do we have going on over here? Besides a bunny rabbit. Thornton Scoville Dobbins. This has to have been another Civil War type series of markers here. What does this say? Yeah. Grand Army of the Republic, 1861, 1865. You just never know what you're going to find out here. This is incredible. Look how cool this is. And as always, we thank all of our veterans for their service, no matter what war. People tend to forget sometimes about the Revolution, 1812, and the Civil War. However, those veterans are every bit as important. So the Pink House turned into a cemetery safari. And with that, we're out of here. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you next time.